As everybody knows, Texas is growing. Well, the central Texas, which is New Braunfels, San Marcos, that's all growing. Well, guess where they get their water? Same place we get it, the Guadalupe River. So whiskey's for drinking, water's for fighting. It used to be the opposite about 100 years ago. Now it's changed. So, and
enough whiskey will get you to fighting, I think, too. And we're back with another episode of Town Talk. As you could already tell, I am not Ashley, but you have seen me on here before. So I will do my best to make sure that this show continues on the way that Ashley would do it. I will do my very best. But I am not alone.
She's just gone for a couple of days, to be fair.
I am not alone. As you could tell already, Sam was jumping the gun. She's excited. She is on the show with me as well, my co-host, Sam Hankins.
Yeah, that's right. I've been on the show a couple of times before, but now I am back in the saddle, so to speak, and ready to talk with our guest here.
Hello.
We have Ken Gill in the studio.
I'm back.
Back again.
To talk differently, not about streets, but about water and the questions I have.
Tons.
So
there's always, there's always questions. I think first off, like streets and water alone is such a massive topic and things that we take sometimes for granted.
Right.
I think in our discussions that we had, we take it for granted sometimes, but it's very important and there's a lot of things. So we always bring Ken on to make sure we get an expert, an experienced person. How long have you been with the city again?
A little over 30 years.
30 years.
I was here before we even had the surface water plant, so it's kind of exciting. I've watched this grow from groundwater to surface water, and it's a great process. And I mean, watching the town grow and our water system grow with it, it's really neat.
Ken, you've been working as long as I've almost my age.
Thanks for that comment. I knew that was coming. Yeah.
Sam too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty close, but props to you. We are very grateful to have you. I enjoy getting to talk to Ken, and I know, like I said, he has expertise. He knows the city back and forth, like everything. So if you have a question on certain things that have been around in the city, go ask Ken Gill. But I think I left something out first because something is just very glaring, which is look at the wardrobe that Sam Hankins has on right now. Can we get a lovely look at that? Like, look at that shirt. Ken, I know you came prepared as well.
I did.
You
too.
look great.
I did not do the green.
You did not do green?
One time I was told, don't do green because that's green screen and you will just blend.
Well,
so I thought, I'll do maroon.
That's perfect color.
Okay.
I mean,
yes.
You're an Aggie.
Right.
It works out.
I got to honor Texas A&M now that they're here in town.
Yeah, that's true. We just got that news. So we love our Aggies. We love anybody that's still not an Aggie, but you'll get to see the spirit, right? You'll get to see the spirit.
We'll get to see all the spirit.
Right. And I wore my hat to represent it as well. For two reasons I wore my hat. One, because I'm professional, and two, because I love the Aggies.
That's right.
So anyway, let's get on with this show. I think we've had enough fun right off the top of it. I think we can jump into it. But I'm going to toss it over to Sam, because I know Sam is really good with asking the questions that the people want to know.
Right. I am pretty plugged into the people and the kind of things that make them tick. And one thing that I have noticed about water that you kind of alluded to, and it's something that you and I have in common, Ken, because I have an editing background and I'm also a translator in my free time. And something that people say often about those lines of work is that we are doing our jobs right if nobody notices that we're there.
That's right. That is a true point. Our job is public works, whether it's whatever we do. My job is that when you get up in the morning and you go to sleep at night, you don't think anything except your kids, your family, your house, what's going on in your work. I want you to take us for granted. That means I've done a great job.
No news is good news.
No news is good news, exactly.
Yep. And smooth.
And smooth.
Yeah.
Every light you made, your water work, this toilet flush, it's great. Our job is good.
And I hate to be the one to bring it up, but I also know that life is life sometimes. And there are problems sometimes that occur, right? I mean,
absolutely.
In a perfect world, it would be awesome to always have a pipe that stayed. I mean, if we found that out, I mean, somebody would be making some good money. A pipe that never burst or
Right.
things along the lines of that, or water that was ready to go straight from the river, whatever it may be. But we know that's not true. And so could you give us a little bit of insight on that, Ken?
A little kind of something that happened the other couple of weeks ago is it was late in the evening, about 8:30, not late, about 8:30 in the evening. We get a call that on our water main that feeds from the river and from our OCRs, our off-channel reservoirs, it's a big 36-inch line that comes into the water plant. Well, before it gets to the water plant where we can do the filtering and the sedimentation, all that, we treat it with chlorine dioxide, which is a disinfectant. Well, that disinfectant line that went into the big 36 inches, it's about a 2-inch feed, cracked right around that big steel pipe. Well, sounds simple to fix, but it was on a steel pipe. And so at about 8:30, we had to shut the water down. We had to shut the plant down, which means whatever we had in the tanks at the time, in the elevated tanks, that's all the water we had. Our crews did a great job. And I compliment our water department and our utility crews. They got out there and hustled to fix it. But it was kind of precarious because we knew about 5 o'clock in the morning, that was about the end game. At about 3:30.
That was when the water was starting to run out?
Yes.
Oh, so that's a dilemma.
And
you're working against the clock.
We're working against the
Right.
clock. And literally, when I mean no water, it's not we would have lost pressure. We would have been out.
Oh, man.
But our crews, like I said, they were calm, collective. They knew exactly what they were doing. They had it fixed at 3:30, and then we turned everything back on, and one of the pumps wasn't working. So we're like, this is just great. Mechanics at its best. They went out there, hit the pump, did some corrections to it, fixed it, got it back on, and we were pumping water at 5 o'clock in the morning before that rush because 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, everybody's
up
baths,
going.
They're blowing and going, and we're pumping water. So we got it. We refilled everything up during the day, ready for the evening. And the best part about it was nobody knew except the people that were involved. None of the public knew. And
it was because nothing was, necessarily disrupted during that routine, No. Everything was still good. Everything was safe.
Everything was still safe. The water, we even had, enough pressure. We didn't lose pressures. And it was, like I said, it's a compliment to our crews and our knowledge, the knowledge of our water operators and our utility operators. And it goes, to the rest of Public Works. I don't want to leave them out because, we got traffic, streets. Got to have those. Yeah. Because somebody's got to get to that water line, and you got to have it all. So it's a joint. That's why I say Public Works. It's a big operation, but it's a joint operation.
Yeah, and kudos to those guys because I have a little bit of insight and understanding of how much they go through by sometimes of what we cover stories and stuff like that. But I know that when I talk to people about certain things, you see it as the city. What's the city doing, right? And it's true, we're a team, right? That's part of the Public Works team. But they're also individual people. They're family men and family women. Like, they're out there. They live in the same city. So they want the water on just as much as you do.
Right. Yes, they do.
They want their sleep just as much as anybody else. So they're out there making sure to provide those services. Those services don't get or get back on if something happens.
And it's their dedication. And it truly is a dedication to the public, to the citizens. That's something that I think all of us here at the city have. Is it's not just a job. I mean, it truly is dedication because I work for y'all out there in the citizens, every one of you. And I take that to heart. Yeah. And I think our group and the city does. Yeah,
it is a pride to work. It is a little bit of pride.
Yes.
To go that route. But that is awesome. I was also talking to Greg about this, about, sometimes you don't think about the water guys being a frontline type of person or even traffic control, but they are like a frontline type of people, right? Because, the safety of water is huge. Like if you don't have clean, safe water or even water or any of the traffic lights going, I mean, that's a major thing. And this isn't at all like to put down any kind of public safety, because I love our police and firefighters. But it just goes to show, you're going to have appreciation like donuts and all this stuff to the public
Right.
safety. But then you got the guys behind the scenes too.
It is
Such of those
Who affect public safety and public health.
Exactly,
Right.
in that
Providing
sense.
water, yes.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing, because when you go into talking about that, the fire hydrants that everybody sees out there,
Uh-huh.
we don't really need those to drink, to have
Yeah,
water, to
yeah.
take a bath with. They are truly a fire operations
Mm-hmm.
apparatus. It's part of their apparatus that they use. So yes, we do provide for
Yeah.
yeah, fire
same thing,
department.
yeah.
And of course, police. They have to have streets, and they have to have traffic lights
Yeah.
and stop signs.
That's-
So it's kind of cool.
It is. So it's like a big public safety effort. I just don't want to leave those guys out, because
Yes.
I know when Greg talked to me about that, it just like opened my eyes. I was like, you know what? I've never thought about that. I was like, dang, somebody should take those guys some donuts out there
Yeah.
at the water plant or something,
Exactly.
like give them some kudos, give some love to them.
Yes.
But yeah, that's cool. That's really what my take on all of that. But go ahead, Sam.
Right. And I'm glad that we were able to shed some light on the work that you guys do that, would have gone unnoticed if not for us putting it out there, because really, like you said, you did your jobs correctly, and for that reason, people turned on their faucet and they didn't have to
It
think
was
twice
there.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that being the case, though, there are the times it seems like when people do tend to notice the water system or think about it are sometimes when things go wrong, and not necessarily something that goes wrong on our end, but maybe something we don't have any control over, like a drought.
Mm-hmm.
So at the time of this recording, we are in stage 3 of our drought contingency plan, so there are some restrictions in place, and so we've started to see, as you could predict, some comments and questions coming up about that. So with that, I would like to go into a segment that we do on this show sometimes called Word on the Streets, which is where I just look through some comments that we've seen on social media and we respond to those.
I love it.
And it's the name is supposed to be a pun, because most of them are about literal streets, because that's
Yeah.
which Ken would be qualified to
Yeah,
answer.
this is the man of the streets
yeah.
answering the word on the
On the
street.
street.
Right,
Yeah.
but they're not literal streets today. But when you think about it, a river is just a street made of water.
Love it.
So that's my story,
Love
and I'm
it.
sticking to it.
That was very
So,
European of you right there.
Very, very European
Good job.
of me.
Good job. Good job.
So with that being the case,
Yeah,
let's
let's
see
get
what
some
questions we
Let's
have.
get some comments up. I love this part. This is fun. Let's see. Where do we have them at? Oh, we might not have them. We might have to
Right here
switch
it
them.
is.
Oh,
Here it
we
is.
got them. There we go.
So the first comment that we received, well, them golf courses are still looking green the last time I ran past them. They have no issues with making them look pretty, ... So before we get into answering this one, I do want to say that I get it. I understand why this person is frustrated, because we have all been in a situation like that, I think, where you're trying to be a good neighbor, to do your part, separating your recycling, whatever the case may be, and then you look at the other fella down the street and it seems like he's not really doing his part. And that can be frustrating. So I understand why this person is frustrated, but there is some information about the golf courses that it seems like they may not know about, because there is more to it than meets the eye. So can you kind of explain to us?
Yes. The golf courses that we have, and we have 3 major golf courses,
Okay.
our course
Yes.
Riverside and the other 2 private courses. They're all on water wells, and they've had those for a long time. And good for them.
Yeah.
They pump out of a well, and then they go into their lakes, which are full of golf balls
Yeah.
and water.
Yes.
But they go into the lakes, and that's what they use to irrigate. And as a public works person, I value that, because it's not hurting our system,
Mm-hmm.
but golf courses are a means of entertainment, and it brings people here, and you just don't want those to just go completely dry. They'd be dead by June. They'd be over. It'd be over. No golfing, no nothing. So it's important that they have an alternative way versus using the river water, which is limited, where the groundwater, they can put it in those ponds, and it can be a little smelly or a little bit of, kind of a rotten egg smell. But
We're out there for the game, though.
right. But when they put it in the pond, kind of aerates it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then they put it on the grass, and it's fine. But that's one of those to where it's not affecting us, but it is in the fact that they're using an alternative source of water that's keeping those golf courses green, which is
taking the strain a little bit off of us a little bit too. Because to your point, I mean, you're not there's a lot of money in a golf course.
It's great.
I mean, you got professional people that are literally dedicate their studies to the type of grass and
Exactly.
all the way to that. And the grass, if you don't water it, like you said, it goes away, it goes bad, and getting it back to that point is going to cost you even more.
Right, exactly.
Money, more water because of so you just got to maintain it.
Maintain it.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's great. I don't know if how many people know that. I mean,
Right.
like you said,
No, I'm
some
glad
people
that you
pass
guys
by
brought
it and
that
see the
up,
green.
too.
And
Yeah.
those, like I said, those wells been around 30 plus years. And they got their permits. They're permitted through the state with TCQ. So they're legit.
Yeah.
And then I go into some of the other things that are out there that kind of reflect what you said, and I'll let you go to the next question. How about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that we're having this conversation about the quality of life and how that kind of impacts
that's good.
our drought restrictions. Because the next question that we have up here is actually kind of on a similar note. So this is a question and a comment. How about all these car washes we have in town? Hopefully y'all are going to monitor them and stop them from wasting so much too. Thumbs up. So obviously the question behind the question here is, why should I have to water my lawn less when the car washes are down there using so much water?
And I'll bring that because I've actually brought that question up. The car washes recycle a lot of their water.
Okay.
And the way that their sprayers and their nozzles work, they're actually pretty conservative.
Yeah, pretty efficient with the water use.
With their water use. And people are going to wash their car, whether at home or the car wash. But the car washes, they can recycle that water, which really helps us. Now, there is a stage at some point when we get past a stage, into stage 4, which is getting critical. Yeah, we will have to, take some action on the car washes. But for stage 3, we're still in good shape with car washes because they are running efficient.
Yeah, and we're not asking you to go and wash your car all the time, but but yeah, I mean, I think they can operate to your point just fine for the while we're in the stage we're in.
Exactly.
And I'm sure in their minds too, they want to be as efficient with their water, just for business sake too.
'Cause that's money.
Right?
Yes.
That's money. That's
That
what I
is
mean.
money.
Yeah, that's literally the main thing in their whole process. So, yeah, I mean, I know I've seen it because that's a big question that a lot of people bring up is
it
the
comes
car
up a
washes.
lot,
You kind
and
of
I knew
just
it
see
was
the
gonna come up
water
this time.
coming out of the car wash sometimes, and that might just be the misconception, but it's not really like it's not as much as you think.
It's not as much as you think. And it's like we have people, when you wash your car at home, we want you to use a nozzle so that when you rinse it off, you turn it off.
Yep.
Don't just leave the hose on and just keep washing your car, keep washing it. That uses a lot more water. You'd be surprised.
That's my kid, Ken. That's when I have to go run after my son because kids and water hoses.
Yeah, they turn them on full.
Yeah,
and you're
they'll
like,
go at it.
The yard's flooded.
Yeah,
we'll stop.
exactly. So,
And so the short answer to that is yes, the car washes that are the commercial car washes, they use less water than you would kind of think by looking at them, but of course they still do use some water. And so for that reason, we do encourage people, if you are going to go get your car washed during a drought, that you go in either the morning or the evening when it's a little bit cooler outside to prevent that water loss through evaporation. But even with that being the case, one of the things that we were talking about earlier with the golf courses and everything is we do look at what is not just how much water a certain task uses, but how much of an impact it's going to have on someone's life and their livelihood. And so if you look at the impact of closing a business and putting them out of work versus telling somebody, hey, you can only water your lawn twice a week, that's no contest. It's easy to see which trigger we're going to pull in that situation.
And there's a lot of employees at these car washes that work there. So
and that's a big talk in town. I mean, like that's a whole different subject. And I know we've gone down that before with, economic growth and how residents, I'm a resident too, but we want, to see things in Victoria. But if we're constantly, making it hard for businesses to thrive a little bit, then that's going to be a little bit of a deterrent for businesses.
And one of the interesting things about the car wash is they're all covered.
Yeah.
So that helps with that evaporation. When you're out there with your lawn sprinkler, it's just going out in the open air and that mist, you see it, you can see the rainbow.
Yeah, you can.
And you're like, where's that going? Well, that's just going away. Where if it was covered, it wouldn't.
Yeah.
So that's another advantage of why you see all the car washes. They're all covered.
And same thing with the golf course. Like the golf course isn't good. They're not watering the lawn in the middle of the day.
No,
that just doesn't make any
sense.
sense.
That's when people are playing golf.
That's when people are playing
Right.
golf. I mean, for me, it wouldn't matter when you
They're
did
at
it.
night.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. At nighttime, when it's the evaporation rate is lower.
Yes.
And that's the main thing, the main science behind it, if that makes sense. So I know we have one more, right? One more comment.
We've got
Let's do
two
it.
more, and I think
let's
two more.
Quick. Let's knock it out. Let's do it.
Okay, so go back to well water and forget about restrictions. Never had these issues when we were on the wells. So, Ken, as you mentioned earlier, you were around when we didn't have the surface water,
Yes.
and so that was like before my time, because I've lived in Victoria for 10 years, been with the city for about 5. So, can you tell us a little bit about why we switched from well water to surface water?
We switched, and we were getting some of the wells were, and for some of the older people that have been here, there's a lot of gases in our water that's deep that we get. Well, we had to aerate that. And up on the north side of town, we had a plant up there that was getting that well water from that, I call it the north region. And it was basically looked like a big building, but we pumped the water up and it ran through it and aerated it to get that gas out. Well, you would be up there eating and you'd be like, why does it smell like rotten eggs? Well, that was the water. And we just became aware that well water is getting a little bit harder to treat. It's getting, taste and odor issues more than we could get from the river. And we had the opportunity through a good planning to get water rights and to acquire them so that we have enough water for the future and now.
When did that occur?
We started the water rights back then, thinking about going to river water. Back in the late 80s. People don't realize that. It was a lot more. Right.
The start of the water,
discussions
rights,
and thinking was way back when. And, the water plant didn't get put in until 2000. But, I mean, it was a 10-year, 15-year process of thinking, okay, how do we plan for this? Because we know that there's a limited supply of the water wells.
And what a good example, I think, of things that are going on behind the scenes. Like there may have been like different factors and pros and cons to each of these things, but the fact that you were able to say, like, we are having this issue with our water. How can we take advantage of the clean water that we have in the river and go that route?
Do we have one more?
Yes, we have one more.
Because I do have some discussion on that too. I know. I just want to make sure we get the last comment.
We have one more, and it's going to be a quick one, I think.
Cool. I like it because we'll try to stay on that. Oh, look at there. It's talking about grass.
Yeah. So it says, get rid of that St. Augustine and seed in some Bermuda. Once established, you never have to water. Turns brown in the summer, no mowing, and will green up when it rains again. So I'm not a plant person, and I kind of wish Daryl was here right now, but I think that we do kind of try to emphasize to people that native plants do use less water, and we encourage them to use that, right?
It does, and there's some discussions, and I'll be the first to say that some experts say put the water for about 10 minutes on your grass and then move it, and then put it back for 10 minutes, maybe an hour later, to make sure it soaks in and doesn't run off. I think that's a good thing, but then you get but you want that deep water. You want that water to get deep so the roots establish themselves. One thing that I think it's important for the public to know is let your grass grow. The taller it is, the deeper the root. And if you think about that concept, you think about a tree. The taller the tree, that root's way down there. If it's a little bitty young tree, that root's not going to get very deep. Let your grass grow. Get it, as the summer comes up, raise that mower height.
And don't let it grow too much, because then code enforcement's going to come after you. But I see what you're getting at.
Let it grow a little bit. Let it grow a little bit.
Just have a little fun.
Yeah,
sure.
I see.
That makes sense. I've never thought of that, to be honest, but that makes a lot of sense. And as the roots get lower, they're deeper. They're deeper. They're not going to be exposed to the heat elements, the drought.
Right, exactly.
So that makes sense. Perfect.
Right.
So let's switch back. Can we switch back into that other discussion? Because I think that
absolutely.
because I was very intrigued by Ken talking about the sulfur smell, or if the rotten egg smell, which is a sulfur smell, with the water, which brought me to my next topic or discussion, which would be like, where we get our water, obviously we get it from the river,
Correct.
but every place gets theirs from a different, every city or every town may get their water in a different way, just how we used to get our water in a different
Yes.
way. So could you go down that road a little bit, or down that river?
Yeah.
Of explaining like the maybe the pros and cons, and everything has a
Exactly.
con to it a little bit.
Yes.
You know, or comes with some issues. I guess.
Exactly. And I kind of want to go, that's a great segue into what I want to talk about is, as everybody knows, Texas is growing. Well, the central Texas, which is New Braunfels, San Marcos, that's all growing. Well, guess where they get their water? Same place we get it, the Guadalupe River. So whiskey's for drinking, water's for fighting. It used to be the opposite about 100 years ago. Now it's changed. So, and
Enough whiskey will get you to
Right.
fighting, I think, too.
And Thomas told me that. Thomas Gooch said
That's
that
funny.
a long
That's
time
good.
I
ago.
bet he did.
But what we're doing now is we're doing a water feasibility study because we know that Victoria's going to grow. And we have a limited, we have water, but it's a limited supply based on, what the water
we get down
district
from the
says.
stream,
Yes. So we're looking at alternatives, and we got a study going on. It's going to look at possibly getting back on groundwater. Technology has changed. Can we blend it with the surface water? Is there other water rights that are out there that we can get? Is there, there's aquifer storage and recovery where you treat the water when you got excess,
Yep.
you pump it down into the ground, and then you just pull it out and you put it back into distribution. But we're going to that now, looking at that feasibility, because who knows, 5 to 10 years, it seems like a long time, but when it comes to water, it's short. Because remember, we went from groundwater to surface water. It was a 10 to 15-year process when we started that talk
Yep.
to get all the way to a water plant. So we're looking at, where do we want to be in 10 years?
Yep.
And I think it's a great segue of, we're not sitting on our hands going, oh gosh, we're going to be out of water. Oh well, too bad. No,
And
we're actively planning now that we know we're going to need more water.
And it's not just our problem alone in the city
It's
of Victoria.
everybody in Texas right
Yep.
now. And I think across the U.S., water is becoming valuable.
Yep.
And I think that the citizens, the conservation that's going out, I think that's really good for the public and good for the United States and the world.
And population just continues to grow anyway.
Right.
So like more usage of water, getting creative of how to retain the water, but also, I don't know, like keep that water flow going, right? Reusing it. Exactly.
Reusing it.
And trying to make sure we have enough to sustain us a little bit.
Right.
Because one thing we can't always control, which is weather factor, droughts, going through times where there's not a lot of rain. And to your point, like we get all of our water down the river. So if it rains here, it doesn't make,
It helps.
it helps, but it's not, you go on because you're a better expert in explaining that.
It's the river's got to be a certain amount flowing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it rains here, river's not going to go up. It helps us because the consumption is not there. If it rains, I'm not watering the grass. I don't need to.
Yep.
But if it doesn't rain upstream, that river's still low.
Yep.
So we kind of want both. I always look at, everybody says, what do you look at when you look at the weather? I said, I look at it here, but I'm looking at Gonzales, I'm looking at San Marcos, and I'm crossing my fingers, please rain up there. And it did.
And
This
it just
last time.
happened. Yeah, I was going to say, like, this past, and
Yeah.
like I said, at the time of the recording, like, we just got
We
hit with a
just got it.
lot of rain and storm.
And it takes, a good example is we can get water from Canyon Lake, which is low, real low. It takes 8 days when we ask for water, which isn't much, when we ask for it, it takes 8 days.
Just
So-
to
just
go through the whole process
Go
of
all the way
putting-
down the river so
Wow.
we can pump it out.
Oh.
Well, and that's where we have a tough time, and it's our job, is when the river's running low, we have to say, okay, do we order it now? No, I don't know. It's supposed to rain tomorrow. Well, you know what? If it doesn't rain, then we're going to be a day behind. So we're weather forecasters, river forecasters, and doing a little bit of the rolling the dice, and because you don't want to waste it.
No, yeah.
I mean, you only get to order so much.
And, with all that being said, I think it's important to let people know, all the water that we end up pulling is always safe, like we talked about the difference,
absolutely, yes.
The difference between, or it comes out safe, I guess you can say, after we go through the process of treating it.
Yes.
And with that being said, is like our process now is different than it used to be. And sometimes it's different than other cities because it depends on your water source. So sometimes, like recently, there is, go ahead, Sam. Yeah, sometimes there's
a little taste and odor.
Yeah, that's right. And there was something that happened about a month ago, I think. I didn't personally experience it because people's experience was different depending on where they live and where their faucet is. But AJ, I think that you maybe went to an establishment where you ordered a beverage and the taste was a little bit funky.
Yeah, well, I just didn't even know, to be honest, and I work here. But, I mean, it was just a little bit off. But then again, that's because, like, my taste buds are so fancy, I guess. I'm used to bottled water, right? Like...
And that's true. Every city has a different taste of water, and when ours it did get funky. I'm not gonna deny any of that because I tasted and I was like, it doesn't taste bad. Well, then we went out and got samples across the city and we put them on a table. Try this one, try this one, try this one, and then I tried about 3 of them. I said they don't taste bad. And I hate one. I was like, okay, wow. Well, it was certain parts of town. It was kind of like, Red River, parts of Red River. You go to a restaurant there, it was like, we're not, just drink Coke.
Yep.
We're not, don't drink water. But we've got it cleared up. What it was, it's that the algae blooms that we have because it's surface water can affect that taste and odor.
Yep.
We've changed the disinfection a little bit. It's still safe to drink 100%. We've done our treatment process to where it can reduce that taste and odor. And
Awesome.
We're not the only ones that have that.
That's what I mean by letting people know. Like, it's not just like you have a problem with each source you can get. Like, the smell, like you said, from the wells. I mean, you had to get rid of that. Nobody's going to want to drink that rotten egg smell water.
You can.
It's safe, but it's the preference, right?
Exactly.
I guess, like, it comes to that, and if it came down to it, I'm sure we would drink it. Right?
I always tell people, wet water is better than no water.
That's true. Very true.
And it's always safe. We're not going to put out a product that's not safe, and that's critical.
Yeah, absolutely. And one question that did come up during that time, I remember about a month or so ago, was people were saying, are we under a boil water notice? Is it safe to drink? And I do just want to set people's minds at ease. We are required by law if there's an issue with like contamination in the water, like a drop in pressure and that sort of thing, to sound that alarm. So,
right. And we are.
So we'll let you know.
Yeah. Right. As a public works
we have
official,
the same water we're using too.
Yes.
Yeah.
As a public works official, that's my job. And it has happened twice on my watch. And one of them, it went below that 20 PSI threshold. And it did it for maybe 30 minutes. Okay? Wasn't long.
That's not long at all in a day.
Nope. The rule is the rule. The law is the law. And safety is safety. That's foremost in my mind, and we issued a boil water notice.
I love it. Honest Ken.
And we did it, and it was like, I hated doing it, but it's the right thing
It's the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Right. And all right, well, just before we kind of move on from all that, I do want to reiterate that if you want to know more about drought restrictions, like I said, we're in stage 3 currently at the time of this filming, but who knows where we'll be when the episode comes out. But if you go on our website, victoriatx.gov, and scroll down to where it's the news, if we are in a drought stage that's requiring restrictions, we will pin that story so that it's the first thing you see when you go to the news section. And also, you can go to victoriatx.gov/drought plan to read just the full text of the drought plan that's in the city code.
Yeah.
And with that being the case, another common question that wasn't one of the ones that we put up on the screen here, but people will say, well, I saw such and such business running their sprinkler on a day they weren't supposed to, and I saw, this and that. And the fact is that we can't be everywhere to catch those violations and such. So if somebody does see that happening and they want to report it,
they call into us. And that's something that I wanted to bring up. Anybody that has a sprinkler system, now's the time. Go adjust it. Look at the drought restrictions, the times you can water, adjust your sprinkler system, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
right.
And some of them don't. We have to remind the businesses. We have to go out there and say, hey, we're under drought restriction. Stop. We also, we have our group of public works employees that will go knock on a door of somebody that may have their sprinkler on at noon, and we're like, no, you can't do it. But I think that one thing that's really easy is Monday, Tuesday, and Friday, no sprinklers.
Right. So then it's really obvious.
It's
like
obvious.
You don't have to check the address or anything.
You don't have to check anything. And
Right.
we're able to monitor some of those water usages through our WaterWise.
Yep,
To see
that's a
if,
tool.
hey, it's
Yep.
creeping up. They're watering or doing something, or something's going on at their house.
Yeah.
So we can monitor that.
So just do your job,
And-
as a resident, I guess,
Right.
just like help in the full.
It's and I say this, help your neighbor,
Mhm.
because it's not us. It's not a police thing.
Yeah.
I'd love not to have to do it, but it's for everybody. It's like when
Right.
we have those freezes, conserve, just drip, please, because we're a group, we're
Yeah.
a city.
Well,
and
that makes sense.
We get our water from the same river.
I wanna jump because I feel like we can't leave this episode without getting something other than water and street from Ken. We need to know there's a segment that Ashley always does. We need to know some kind of fun fact about Ken. Something unique that we would be like, what? I didn't know Ken sculpted in his off time. I didn't know
What?
Ken.
You sculpt in your off time?
Okay, this is a fun fact.
Okay.
I can do engineering drawings and all that, but when it comes to art, like my grandson will say, hey, draw me a picture of a dog. It's like, dude, I cannot draw. I cannot draw. I cannot art draw at all. At all.
Is it because of there's no like right angles
there's
happening?
no
Is it-
lines,
no
there's
lines?
no straight. And I was like, well, I cannot do that. I cannot just art draw.
Ken's a man in a box. He's got,
So
just don't get outside of that.
It's that left brain, right brain.
Yep.
I don't have that artistic this going on, what this is.
Well, I
don't
do
have
this,
that.
and I still can't draw either. So
Because you're left brain.
yeah, well,
See, you're on the artistic side.
yeah, I just
This is out of my comfort
I'm one of
zone
those
a little
people
bit.
that just throw the paint and let the paint land, and I'm like, look what I made.
I can
Oh,
do
you're
that.
you're like that elephant who
Yeah, the elephant that
painted
painted.
a thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
and
can do
people
that.
sell it for millions of dollars. So
Or you
Yeah.
could just use a paintball gun and paint your house.
that's true too. Well, Ken, thanks again.
Thank you, Golf.
for being on the show. If I can like recap real quick, we talked about all things water for the most part. I don't think we went down the street.
We gave
yeah.
some kudos to our
Examples?
unsung
Yes,
heroes.
we did. Gave kudos to the heroes of the water and the street through the times of without even noticing
Without
what's
noticing.
going
Yes.
on, right?
Right.
And we are once again thankful for them and hope that they continue to take the pride in their job that we know that they do every day.
And they do.
Yeah. And then we brought some comments up and we talked about what you can do in your effort. We tried to eliminate some of the
Commonly asked questions.
commonly asked questions, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Because that's why we have Ken, 30 years of experience to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we let you know where the water comes from
Yep.
and what you can do.
And help everybody, help everyone.
That's all.
Yep.
That's what it's about. So
Do the right thing.
do the right thing.
Yes. Just do the right thing. Do what Mr. Rogers would want you to do, and just be a good person,
A good neighbor.
Yeah.
a good neighbor.
Sam, thanks for doing this with me, helping
Thank
me
you,
out.
AJ.
Ashley, we miss you. Come back.
And thanks, AJ.
Thank you.
And
Thanks, Ken.
thank you, Ken. We know you're very busy, so thank you
No,
for
I
coming here
enjoyed
today
doing
to
these.
talk to the
We
people.
appreciate it. So that's another episode of Town Talk. We will see you next time. Cool.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Town Talk. Check out future episodes at victoriatx.gov/Town Talk, or of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel and our Spotify account. Make sure you hit that notification button to be sure that you get alerted instantly when our new episodes debut. You don't want to get behind, you want to stay informed, so make sure you do that. We appreciate your support, couldn't do it without you. So thanks again, and we'll talk to you next time.